Sam here, aka Freaking Goddess at the Happiness Club, and I just wanted to do a recording this morning. Thought I would do it in my garden as it's such a beautiful day. So I want to talk about. I went to see the Manningtree Witches at the Mercury Theatre in Colchester on Saturday, and there were a few things that really struck me. First of all, oh my god, it was so good. It was so good and so awful at the same time, because it's such a sad and depressing and disturbing story, and the fact that it's a true story makes it a million times worse. For those of you that don't know, it's a story about the Witchfinder General and the witch hunt that took place in the late 1600s. And I was going to say the 17th century, and then I thought, is it the 17th century? I think it is, but anyway, never mind. So, and this guy, Matthew Hopkins, I think his name was, just like got it into his head that these women were witches just because they were widows and because they were a bit outspoken. And he basically had them all hung. And I think it's easy to think, that was in the 1600s. Things like that don't happen today, but they do happen today. We see demonising of immigrants and Muslims on the one hand, and on the other hand, we see demonising of the far right. We're never going to have peace and unity all the time. We've got the people on the one hand that are against Muslims and immigrants, and on the other hand, people that are against the far right. I saw a post on Twitter a few weeks ago by a group called Together Unity, and somebody had reposted it calling for a stop to division, and the post was a march against the far right. And I thought, that's interesting. How can a march against anything put a stop to division? And I thought it was ironic that they were called Together Unity. And in the Buddhism that I practice, the late President Akeda talks about how we can achieve world peace through dialogue. And wouldn't that be great if we could just talk about it and listen to and talk to each other without trying to convince each other of each other's point of view, of our own point of view, but really understanding the other's point of view. I was at a brilliant Buddhist meeting a couple of months ago, and somebody said, sorry, it's gone. What was I going to say? It's gone. But anyway, you get the gist of it. Let's try and understand each other and have a dialogue instead of constantly fighting each other all the time. So that was one thing that really struck me, and the other thing that really struck me was there was a lot of reflections for me of my own life. Somebody said to me a couple of years ago, I was on a retreat, and I said about how scared I am of speaking my truth, and they said, oh, it's the witch wound. And I said, what's that? I hadn't heard of it before. And she said, in a past life you were probably a wise woman, and you were probably tortured or put to death for speaking your truth, and now you are literally scared to death of speaking your truth. And that really resonated with me. And as soon as she said it, I've got goosebumps all over my body, and I'm getting those again now. And you may know that when you get goosebumps, as far as I understand it, it's a sign that something is true, and it also can be a sign that that spirits nearby, but in this case I think it was a sign that it was true. It just really resonated with me. So yeah, so that, and I think as well that not just witch wound from past lives, but being brought up as a Jehovah's Witness, I was brought up that anything to do with spirituality comes from the devil. And even other religions, they believe that they're the only true religion, and any other religion, any kind of spirituality, but particularly the kind of spirituality that I'm into these days, they believe that it's all from the devil. So yeah, so that's really interesting, and I feel like that these things have like really blocked my intuition. So yeah, and the other thing that struck me also related to being brought up as a Jehovah's Witness. So I was brought up really strictly, and we weren't allowed to have sex before marriage. Now, as a teenager, I was really fucking horny all the time. I'm sure you can relate, because we were all teenagers at one point. So yeah, and in the play, the Manningtree Witches, there was this young girl, and she was, I think, 17, and she had these really intense sexual feelings that she was trying to suppress because it was a sin, and so I could really relate to that. Excuse me. And she was one of the witches that got condemned, although she didn't end up dying, which is a long story which I won't go into. But it really reminded me of being a teenager, and actually me and my boyfriend at the time, who was also a Jehovah's Witness, we did a lot of what was called heavy petting, and we ended up getting kicked out of the religion. We did try and have sex once, but it was a disaster because neither of us knew what we were doing. And then when we did try and have sex, it basically came to a head, and they kicked us out of the religion. And we had to go in front of what they call a judicial committee. So I had to go in on my own in front of these three kind of middle-aged to older men who wanted to know in explicit detail what me and my boyfriend at the time had been doing, which I personally think is abuse. So yeah, so I just wanted to share my reflections on the Manningtree Witches production, and absolutely brilliant, really hard hitting, really powerful. I came out of there feeling really choked up and emotional, and after getting kicked out of the Jehovah's Witness religion, I've been estranged from my parents pretty much ever since, which was over 30 years ago. So yeah, some honest reflections there. Hope you find it interesting, or you can resonate with it, or hope something in the message touches you today. And sending you all love and juju as usual. Have a fabulous week.